Hello everyone, I'm Command. I'm here with Mini, former coach of fnatic Valorant, now EMEA caster, analyst. What can he not do? I just wanted to start saying, how are you? You good?
I'm very good, yeah. I mean, it feels weird to be called. I'm not a caster really yet, so we'll figure that one out. But yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good figuring out life. But yeah, it's fun to look at the past a little bit, I guess, today.
Yeah, of course, of course. We're here to talk about Leo, one of the players who I think is kind of a legend in of the game at this point. But I want to kind of go back to the start, and we'll go through, and then we'll talk about kind of his legacy and stuff later on. First of all, when you were building the fnatic super team, obviously you're known for your scouting. You know, best scout in the game. Some people have said. What was it about Leo that really caught your eye on Bonk or Guild or?
Mm, okay, so like this is. I always find it funny when my scouting is talked about because my scouting is literally like the most brain dead. Look at the stats, and if they look good, then I'll trial them. With the super team, we didn't have because it was such an aggressive market for trying to get players like Leo. Um, we didn't actually trial. So it was just the fact that he was clearly the best. Like I didn't even really like. I watched his play obviously sometimes, but I didn't sit down and watch his VODs. Like I knew how good he was. I didn't need to kind of study him. He was just that much better. So we just went for him. He actually asked for a trial eventually because he was trying to figure out for himself what team might be best. And I think the trial went very well in the sense that like we showed ourselves well for him almost rather than the other way around. And I presumed that that's what kind of made him decide to come with us.
Yeah, I feel like he's one of those players where like you've seen, you see his 1v5 against Navi back in the day, and you're like, yeah, this guy's clearly
Mm.
just different.
I
Was
guess one thing initially I thought with the team was that I had the sense that Chronicle played more like how Leo did, and Leo played more like how Chronicle did,
right,
in the
right.
sense that I think that I presumed like Leo was more of a just like fragging youngster, and Chronicle was more cerebral. But like it was like the other way around, right? Like Chronicle was much more micro kind of aim kind of focused, and I think that Leo, like Chronicle's still smart, but I think Leo really has kind of we'll probably touch on it later, but like the kind of perfect kind of way to play the game and relies much less on his mechanics.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. I was going to say, was there anything, obviously, like you said, you didn't trial, but in the early scrims, once you'd kind of got the team
hmm
together, I was going to say, was there anything like that that kind of surprised you about him as a player, considering like you hadn't trialed him necessarily?
I guess we kind of did because we had like tester scrims, I'd call them.
Right.
So what surprised me was the fact that he was a far more cerebral than I thought, and even like I had a lot of people during that season, um, during that split of interviewing during the off season, sorry, where they like a lot of people were claiming to be like second IGLs. And like Leo said it to me, and when Leo said it to me, I almost like shut him down. 'Cause, like every single person who's talked to me said they're a second IGL. Like let's not focus on that. It's fine. And I didn't really believe him. And I wouldn't say he was like initially like the second IGL, but I remember him making calls that were very good quickly and kind of. I remember him calling specifically for like a fake round in a mid round, and he organized the whole fake and kind of like set it up himself and understood the kind of timings and rhythms of how it worked very naturally without having Boaster to have to tell him everything, which is usually how it goes for Fnatic, to be honest.
Yeah, but I know Boaster's a big micromanager, so I'm sure that helped him kind of get some headspace. Um, did you know, when you have those early scrims pre-lock-in and stuff, did you know, like, okay, yeah, we've got something special here. Like, this roster's going to be pretty incredible. Did it take a bit of time to kind of create that?
No, I think we were owning everyone almost immediately. And I know that scrims aren't like the be it or end all, but there is like an eye test where you're like, okay, like if we play like this, like I think some coaches say, "Oh, we won scrims." It's just like, yeah, but did you really win scrims? Like, did you win in the way that like was good, or did you just shoot them all? And it felt like to me when I was watching the scrims, it was like, okay, I think we're pretty good. Like, I think I made a post recently. Like, I genuinely would go to bed every night thinking about winning lock-in, and it really fucked with me because like I thought we'd do it, but like there was a lot of pressure on me during that part of the season, and I was struggling with it a little bit, but um. I definitely kind of visualized it. And I think partly because we were so good, like when I was watching us play.
Yeah, and I guess the pressure is there because, people are saying you've got a super team, so people might look at you if something doesn't go right. But obviously it did. Before the tournament, were there any specific things where you were like, actually, this could really trip us up? Like maybe, of course, you were going against Sentinels first. Did you think like, actually, maybe the pressure could get to them, or were you like, nah, we got this shit?
When we pulled Sentinels as the first game, that was the biggest worry. I was like, if we could get through that, I was like, okay, we're probably going to be okay. But the fact that like it's a single elim tournament where you don't have any preparation on anyone, we had to do some ludicrous things to even find out like any information on Sentinels. There was a tiny bit that I could gather, but that sounds really fucking vague and like sketchy, like I was cheating, but like I was using just like tracker and stuff just to check on what their agents they're running and kind of stuff like that. And
Yeah.
I kind of was able to pull some data from like previous teams and figure some stuff out. But yeah, no, I didn't really have a specific thing. I think I think you're right to mention Sentinels. It was like the big first game, like Sentinels just rebuilt, we'd rebuilt, and I wouldn't have been unhappy losing to Sentinels in the first round, kind of thing. You know what I mean? So just getting through that game, I think.
Yeah, you guys destroyed him as well. So it was a hyped up to be this massive game, and then you guys just took it. But
I mean, it was a little bit. We started slow on split, if I remember.
Yeah. But then Leo hit that
Haven was
1v2.
pretty clean.
Yeah, Leo hit that 1v2 in the last round. Wow. But the lock-in was so weird, wasn't it? Because you were coming in with no info on some of the teams. Like obviously some of them were the same, but it was just crazy. I remember like trying to make tier lists and stuff back in the day, and it's just like, what are you supposed to do? Like you can't get this right. But Leo was obviously won MVP for lock-in. He played insane at that tournament. But one of the things that really stood out to a lot of people was the fact he just never died first. Like especially in those first games before the grand final. What is it like as a coach to have a player with such incredible discipline that he does?
I mean, it's a very useful tool for me because I was always trying to get the players to play more like how Leo plays the game. Like I think the way that intuitively Leo plays the game is the way that I want the game to be played on some level, where it's like I almost like compare it to poker, where it's like you're kind of assessing all the different variables and then trying to make the best percentage decision possible. And the conversation with other players usually just is like, okay, we're in a 5v4. Is it better to peak or not to peak? And that's usually how far the conversation goes with other players. But with Leo, I can tell he's taking on like every single factor. Like there is time, there's positioning, there's like economy status, there's ult status, there's like anti-strat, and he's able to very quickly kind of, at least that's my interpretation of it, is he's able to kind of take all of those factors quite quickly and make a decision based on them. And it's far beyond just we're in a 5v4, don't peak. Like he's able to make calculations better than that, I think.
Right. And we see some players who are they work really well in a certain system, but then maybe when they move over to another team, they don't quite play the same. Do you think Leo would have that level of performance like in any system, like just because of the way that he thinks about the game?
It's an interesting topic where I'm almost going to start. It's almost like I'm not to sound cocky, but I don't think there's very many teams that play a good system in Valorant. So like if we're looking in 5 to 10 years time when everyone's at a better system place, then it would be interesting to see which kind of systems would work better. But I think that finding good system teams in Valorant is kind of difficult. And just joining a team that has a good system is probably better for almost every single player right now. So it's hard to answer because I'm not so much interested in the kind of specific differences in systems right now. It's that like, again, like I just don't think that there's many decent teams with good systems right now. So I think that he would be able to join any top team right now. And, even if the system wasn't perfect for him, he's too good a player for it not to work, in my opinion.
Yeah. When you were building the team, obviously you were probably thinking like, Leo's initiator player, Chronicle, they're more thinking players, and you've got players like Alpha who are a bit more aggressive. They'll kind of go in and not afraid to take fights. Was that something that you were aware of, and do you think it's important to have like a good balance of aggressive and more not passive, but more thinking, more disciplined type players? Or would you say like if you had a team of 5 Leos, you like, yeah, give me that, like I'll take it.
I think that it's interesting. Is you're very rarely in a situation when building a team where you can make those decisions. You're pretty much trying to just get the best case scenario. And I think we kind of did, build the best case scenario. I think that if we were to get like theoretical about it or like abstract, like obviously having a player or two who can, work outside of the system to find solutions, which is Alpha just literally being like, okay, well, they're beating us here. Let's just go kill them, which is a pretty good solution sometimes. Um, I would err towards like I think I'm wrong, but I would err towards having a bit more Leo style in the team.
Speaking of Alpha just killing everyone, at Tokyo,
Mhm.
like obviously he got MVP. Leo was also up there for MVP choices. Um, After you won Tokyo, were you just like, we've locked in champs as well? Were you like super confident for champs? Like,
Mm, we didn't really think too much about champs. Like we wouldn't come out of a tournament immediately thinking about the next tournament. We were kind of very tired,
yeah,
trying to figure stuff out. We probably were thinking, thank God we get to go home and like get some rest. Um, I think that the scrims during Tokyo were okay. Like it was a bit like at lock-in, we just farmed every scrim, but we were playing mostly against kind of slightly weaker competition. Whereas at Tokyo, it was starting to get a bit like, okay, like, honeymoon's over. Uh, there are some frictions at some point. There are some like teething issues in scrims. And then when it was champs time, you could tell that like those issues are kind of like set in. Like they kind of, we are the best team easily kind of stuff. And it's getting a bit boring. It's kind of settling in. Like we're obviously desperate to win champs, but there is a certain thing that can be said for being so successful. Like it's difficult. And like I think people might maybe have like a very caricature kind of you could interpret what I'm saying in a very like, if someone was listening to this, I'd be like, yeah, but I just would try harder. It's just like it's not like that. It's not like you can just will yourself into kind of keeping the mindset of everyone. Like there's unspoken things that just like happen where like it's very difficult to kind of grasp onto. And you can see that right now with like heretics right now. Like they're not quite the same as last year. And as much as they talk about it and try and fix it, sometimes it just doesn't, you can't figure out exactly what those things are. So yeah, for champ scrims weren't amazing. I think the boys had slightly gotten like a little bit less motivated. You can see by the amount of ranks they were even playing, like they weren't playing the game as much, and I didn't really realize that until like after champs. So yeah, I can't remember the initial question, but
no, that was. I mean, it leads in well. I was gonna. My next question was, what do you think went wrong at champs? Do you think that was mainly it, or do you think there were some other factors as well, like other teams catching up?
I think that we had a very bad map pool against Loud specifically. If you look at the map pool matchup, we were trying to play Pearl, but the way that the system works for champs is that we couldn't get any scrims on Pearl for the tournament because tier 2 were no longer playing and tier 1 were rebuilding. So we had no competition to actually figure out Pearl on because I had hired Anders to kind of help us with Pearl, but we couldn't get decent scrims to like reflect on it. So we had to keep with the permaban of Pearl, which was very bad against Loud because they didn't like Pearl either. And then also our bind, I fucked up because we changed from Cypher to Chamber. I didn't want to play Cypher anymore because I was very worried about preparation and anti-strats. Bosa had some concerns, but I don't think he didn't push on them as much as what he maybe should have. And it's, I'm not going to throw him under the bus because I think that ultimately that comes down to me. But us changing our bind meant our bind wasn't so comfortable. And again, that was another map where I don't think Loud were good at. So 2 of our weak maps, we were unable to exploit against Loud because of those reasons. And then obviously then we're left with Lotus where they've beaten us in the past and Sadhak's very good on Lotus. So for me, it was just a map pool matchup. We generally weren't as good at that tournament in general. I think, partly due to the things I was saying before. but it's kind of ironic that people build narratives off of stuff very quickly, like saying like we didn't change much. To me, we changed our bind. We'd be trying to add our pearl in, but unfortunately, like for the reasons I just said, we couldn't do it. Lotus, I didn't think we needed to change as much because I didn't expect teams to actually focus on Lotus for that tournament as much. Whereas, ironically, EG and Loud both really worked hard on their Lotuses. And I thought we'd worked hard on Fracture, changing to the Sova. And I genuinely thought we could have beat EG at that tournament. If you watch our Fracture, we had one game on the server. I think we were doing stuff that was like not being done before. So unfortunately, if you were like shallow analysis on the outside, you would maybe say that we didn't change much, but there was a lot of work going on there.
Yeah, I mean, there always is a lot of work going in, isn't there? Okay, so I want to talk a bit more about Leo as a player within the team and him specifically in that year of 2023. Yeah, 2023. Mm-hmm. If there was one quality about him that you had to pick and you could apply it to any player at any point, and you know his most impressive quality, what would you pinpoint that as?
There's a few he has, and some are not replicable. So like his just game sense is the best in the world probably, but that's impossible to replicate in my opinion. Whereas the things that are more more able to copy are like his hard work and his discipline. And then when I say discipline, I don't just mean in game, like out of game. He has his own like his own quirky kind of ways of kind of being and making sure he's prepared. He was always the first in when I was in at the office, and he was always staying probably later than even I was, and I was pretty hardworking. So he was just ready all the time, and he would always go to the gym. He'd eat the food he wanted to eat. He'd make sure he had his kind of system worked out. He would play ranked, and he would play his agent. He was one of the few players that actually played his agents in ranked, whereas everyone else just rocking in Reyna and stuff. And I think all those small things do account for material reasons why he might be better than other people at the game.
Yeah, I know he played a lot of football growing up. Do you think any of that came out of that team sports background?
I think that potentially. I think that the thing that I noticed was he's kind of like, I don't know how to describe his personality. It's kind of obvious when you kind of see Leo. His personality is very kind of reserved and kind of like sometimes a bit teenagery, you know. But I would give him a lot of credit in the fact that he would never talk shit. He's a very loyal person. And then also, if I was ever trying to like help players with stuff, and players were kind of like combating me on any level, Leo would be one of the first players to be like, why the fuck are you trying to argue with me? Like, and so he had that respect naturally for the kind of coaching staff and structure within the team.
Yeah, that's always nice to have, isn't it, as a coach? I'm sure. In terms of, like you were saying, he's quite a reserved guy. What did that bring to the overall like team dynamic? Because I know you have Boaster, who's a big personality. Alpha as well is quite lively. Do you think it was good for the team to have someone who was quite stoic?
I think that Leo's. It's weird to do like it's weird to do this kind of thing about Leo because it's funny to see how he might interpret all these things, but I don't strictly see him as a stoic person, if that makes sense. Like I think he has what we would like in the true sense of what stoic philosophy is. I don't think he is a stoic because he does react emotionally to things. It's just that he doesn't present it. So like he does, you know, he's good at trying to move on from things, but at the same time, I can tell when he is like affected by things. It's just on camera, you're not going to see it because he just has this kind of like blank slate. So, yeah, I guess having someone who's not physically showing emotion can be useful, but it works both ways. Like there are times where I guess for Leo to like the way I worked with Leo is that I thought that there was very little I could help him with in game. And I would often not even coach him the same way as I coached other players. Like I didn't need to kind of tell him what to do. I'd ask him questions more and kind of we'd like if there was something bad, I'd be like, maybe look at this, and he'd kind of get it. And I think the most I think going forward with Leo, if like whoever's working with him, should be trying to get more out of kind of the out of game stuff or the stuff that's like tertiary to everything. So, um, you know, he doesn't need help in game, but he has so much brain power that like I feel like that part needs to be explored a little bit more, like the kind of secondary IGLing stuff, the communication, the leadership aspects, in my opinion. So when we're talking about someone who is quote stoic, I think that it's not. I would like to see him embody those emotions more and kind of be more leadership vibes at times and kind of, he's so disciplined out of game, like bringing other players up to his level when it comes to the out of game stuff. And also in game, like if he thinks we're fucking up, like he should be there kind of helping at all points. And I think we did a good job in the later stages of 2023 and in 2024, like building him up as like someone in the team that was supposed to be helping bolster more with those kind of things. I hesitate to use the word secondary IGL because people start to then think that Bosa's doing nothing and get the wrong end of the stick. But there's a lot of leadership stuff that I think that would be like Leo's almost the perfect player in game, but I think that like to push him even further, it'd be those leadership aspects, the less kind of in-game related stuff, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. In terms of those leadership moments, was there ever a point, like a specific point in a game where, I don't know, the team weren't doing as well and they needed something and he really changed the course of a match?
Yeah, like it wouldn't ever be him with, he's not, he's a bit like me. He's not going to give us a big speech or be particularly motivating in a external way. But the game where he was sick and couldn't play and managed to go through that, like to me, that shows some kind of leadership quality on some level where it's like, I'm going to do this thing no matter what, and you're going to kind of follow me. And I think it was the most impressive performance of Valorant I've ever seen, because not only was he physically unable to actually hold himself upright for like the half, he was like just destroying them. So to me, there's like sometimes it's just through example, like it's not always going to be a big speech or something. I can't think of other examples, to be honest with you. He was good in moments to know when to say like that we need to kind of shut up, or sometimes there's specific games where like Boaster might have been overcomplicating things and he's simplifying things a bit more for him. Especially in 2024, I think that he really was doing a lot for the team. And I know that people look at Hero coming in and like us doing slightly better, but I can't not like praise his development in 2024.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, if we're moving on to 2024, in terms of when you started the year and kickoff and stuff, that was when, Leo's health issues started to manifest. Obviously, Fnatic have had a history of like, always some illness, or especially at the start of the game, with Durka at Reykjavik 2022 and all that. Were you at first, were you just kind of like, oh, like seriously again, like kind of a temporary thing, like we're kind of cooked because of this annoying thing out of game again?
That's really, I mean, like we knew after Shanghai that we're gonna have to replace him for the rest of the season, most likely. And my initial instinct wasn't like, fuck, we're cooked. Like, obviously, if you're to like put it down on paper, you'd be like, okay, trying to replace Leo is very hard, if not impossible. And Hero did a very good job of coming in and helping. But no, my initial thoughts were, my God, this kid is sick. Like, that's not good. So I was more like, concerned for him. And I don't think at the time I kind of knew the gravitas of the situation.
Yeah.
Like obviously things were, I was about to sub in at Shanghai, like I was warming up on stage.
I was
So
gonna ask you
things are
about
bad when
that.
when that's happening. So no, I'm just like, it's just, yeah, I've said it before, it's just kind of sad that someone who is like, that's why I feel like I'm okay to do this kind of thing. Like there's very few players I'd want to do this kind of thing for at the moment. But for someone who literally right now is off to the side, not able to play the game because of something out of his control, when he is, in my opinion, the closest to playing perfect Valorant player in the world, it's just kind of upsetting, really.
Yeah, Definitely. In terms of, you're saying perfect player, when we compare him to some of the other best players in the world, Aspas, Durka, Kang, a lot of those players are duelist players. Do you think we should be giving Leo even more credit for putting up these performances on a non-duelist role?
I guess, yeah, but I think that anyone worth their weight in analysis is gonna, quickly identify that as a thing. Um, yeah, like you scratch the surface for his stats, and you're like, okay, this guy's pretty good, like world class stats. And then you dig further with like the nerdy stats, you're like, Jesus Christ, no, this guy's like an outlier of outliers. Like some of the stuff that I've heard, like Gentlemate's analysts like JT did some stat stuff, and I remember him like referencing some stuff to me, and it was just like ludicrous how much more value that Leo was getting for certain things than other players. For me, like I did never really care too much about that stuff because I was just busy coaching. But it's kind of nice to see that the eye test was kind of matching up with the objective stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I forgot to mention about the game where you mentioned he was sick playing those BO5s against was it Vitality and Heretics? Can't remember.
Heretics.
Yeah, in stage 1. I think in the post-match interview, Chronicle says that he just didn't communicate at all. Did he really just not speak at all in that last map?
No, he didn't. I can't remember the exact timeline of things happening and when he got sick, but it was at least very early into the match that he could not. No, I think it was from the start of the match, I guess. And he basically couldn't speak. And I don't know how he even communicated that he couldn't speak. I think it was pretty obvious. And then for this first 15 seconds of freeze time, he would just have his head in his hands. And then when it got to the last like 10 seconds, he would just start moving towards his position. And I had to cool in that, like, because we have like before the map week, the coaches can talk. And I was like, boys, like Leo can't speak right now. Like if you are dead, please, like you immediately don't do your fucking audio shit. Don't zone out. You have to go to Leo's screen immediately and start coming for him if like you die. And I've had other situations where players couldn't talk in the past, like with Magnum once. And players, it is funny how like players do suddenly play. It seems like they play better when they don't have to calm. Like there is such a stress and like responsibility that calming has. But for Leo, it's like we need him to calm because he's like so good at kind of seeing the game and stuff. But in that moment, he just went Super Saiyan and just like his breeze play has always been phenomenal, and it was just very. It was kind of like just very entertaining to watch someone who was like, I mean, entertaining. I mean, I was kind of like very worried for him, but at the same time, I'm like, Jesus Christ, like this guy is just like on another level. Like
he's literally
like
been nerfed,
you guys are world class players on my team, and you're fucking not sick. And he's got like 20 more frags than you. What's going on? Kind of
yeah,
thing,
he's
like,
literally nerfed outside the game just to bring him down. He's still destroying everyone. Obviously, like you said, this is a terrible situation in terms of he's not able to continue that consistency that we've seen so far. 2021, 2022, 23 and 24 was one of the top 4 rated players in the world, which is just insane. Do you think we will be able to see a point where, not necessarily 2025, but in a future year where he'll be able to get to those levels again?
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know, like, it's weird because like I obviously like made sure he was okay, and I've like kind of checked on him and when like things were announced, but I haven't kind of been keeping up with him. And I don't know the situation going forward with him. Like, I really do hope that he's okay. I mean, this year would be brilliant. I presume that this year would probably not be the year. I really do hope that next year we do see him. And I've seen comments about like people being like, oh yeah, but he's not going to be the same as he was before. I'm not going to sit here and say that like he can be the exact same player like immediately. But I don't think people realize how much ahead he was from like everyone else in his role. Like I don't think people are still catching up to that level of play and that level of like understanding the game. I don't see, teams might get better, but I don't think individually people are on his level still. So for me, I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back and he's still world class. Like maybe he's not the exact same. And the other thing I think I'd noticed that like his playstyle doesn't revolve around his mechanics as much. So it's not like if he's not as crisp because he's not had gameplay time, like it doesn't matter. Like he's gonna position. Like his fight IQ is so high, and his like macro understanding is so high that he's always just gonna be in a better position. And like he's gonna even understand that if like his mechanics aren't as good, like he's gonna be adjusting to that too. But I don't see that really being the case. For other players, absolutely. If they took a year off, I'd be like, they're done. Like they're bums now. But for Leo, like I don't see. I'd find it very strange if he came back and if he was just like mediocre or something.
Yeah, yeah, that's reassuring to hear, because obviously he was in a position where we're thinking like if he wasn't forced to take the break, then you're thinking, you know, he could have really become undisputed GOAT level of player. Do you think he would have, you know, if it was uninterrupted, if he was still playing, do you think he would have just gotten further and further away from everyone else, and everyone would have eventually gone, yeah, this guy's just the best player of all time?
I mean, that the GOAT kind of discussion is always tied to your team's results, so it just depends how Fnatic were doing, or you know, whatever happened after that season. So I mean, the obvious answer is like yes, to some degree. He's still in a team with Chronicle though, so it's like
Yeah.
you know. And then Dirk is farming right now. Aspas is farming. But I think that like yeah, I guess it's funny that like yeah, he is the kind of only. I guess Chronicle is as well the non-duelist kind of aspect of that. But yeah, I don't know. To be honest with you, I think that those conversations we can have more insight in a couple of years. And I don't think if he came back in like a year or two, or even like the end of this year or whatever, I think that like his name's still going to be, you know, in the pack. I don't know how, maybe because I am being so positive about him, like I'm exaggerating things to the point where like it seems like he is like that much better than everyone. Like obviously the game's still in a point where like, you know, he's not like 50% better than Chronicle or anything. There's just aspects that he has that I think like better Chronicle, and Chronicle has stuff that betters Leo. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm just kind of
Reminiscing.
Like I have it's I think I'm just trying to argue against the idiots who think that Leo couldn't be
Get back to that level.
You know?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think that's all the questions I have, apart from one more unserious one. Are there any funny moments, any funny stories that you remember from Leo's time on, and obviously your time on Fnatic, that you would be willing to spill? I imagine there's a lot that you're not, but
no, all I remember from Leo, like I don't remember anything really that funny. It's just I remember like like when it came to just like everyday kind of stuff, like Leo was sometimes a pain in the ass. I'm not gonna lie. Like when it came to like food and stuff, like he's very kind of specific and like
right.
would only eat like very like he's one of those kind of like I'm only gonna eat rice and chicken. Or like if we're like taking a taxi somewhere, he'd be like shotgun in the front every single time, and like if he didn't get the front, he'd be like so mad. So poor me is like in the middle back seat like every single time we're going anywhere. So I just remember like that being like a quirk that like again like to be honest, like the kind of thing that he probably needs to think about in the future, like those leadership quality things where it's like you know, sometimes you got to take the hit sometimes. But
yeah.
No, I don't know. Like for me, it's kind of funny. Like I think I said before that like me and him like we didn't, you know, like with Alpha, like Alpha's a very social person. Like I still hang out with Alpha all the time. But Leo, like, you know, if we were like in Berlin together, I'm sure that, you know, we'd say hello and like kind of be respectful. But yeah, you're not gonna get like a funny story at Leo, because it's just like he goes into the office, plays video games all day, and then he leaves the office and goes to sleep. Like it's not quite the same. He's just locked in. Yeah. The funny thing I do think about is that when he was the, you know, that meme, the guy right now doing the fucking water ice water thing. Like I can't believe that Leo did it like a year before this guy, and he's getting no credit for it. And this fucking guy comes in with the memes, and he's stealing everyone's hearts away.
Leo was already there. Yeah. That's where the hair's always slicked back. He's always got the ice water. Yeah. That's hilarious. That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for this conversation. It's been really fun. Just reminiscing about who I think is probably the best player of all time, but hopefully we can see him back, like you said, this year, next year.
Yeah, I was interested. I was actually going to do, because there's no replay system.
Yeah.
Like I did really want to do a video, and I don't know if it'll work, where like I actually try to watch a game through his eyes.
Ooh.
Where like I just use the radar sometimes to just like be like, okay, we're not on his POV, but we're gonna still like look at his decision making. Because I do think these conversations can get abstract sometimes. This is a good conversation to have, and I think that like it's been good. But sometimes I do think that like because I'm talking in this abstract, and then Reddit's like, oh, Mini says this and this, but like we're not talking in like tangible sometimes. So I do wonder if like because we don't have that demo viewer to kind of actually see his POV, like if I could and if it would work. So be on the lookout. I might try and see if there's a way to kind of show tangibly how good Leo is from like actual game stuff. Because it is quite difficult to do that, I guess, with the no demos.
For sure. And I'll link your things in the description and such, so people can find that when it comes out. But yeah, thank you so much for this conversation. It's been really good. So thank you, bro.
Sure, thank you.